Hey, thanks for joining me here on the channel. I'm Glenn, and on today's fun project, we've got this Kawasaki KLX140 here behind me. Had to think about that for a second. If you have a Kawasaki dirt bike, that's a KLX110. It's a very similar bike. It's a one-cylinder, four-stroke engine on there, and what's going on with this bike is someone had taken it apart and put it back together, or not the bike, but the engine, and there's a couple of oil leaks on each side of the engine case. So we're going to take care of those leaks today, figure out what's going on. But in the meantime, I want to thank my buddy over there across the pond, I'm pointing that way towards England, that way. Igor sent me this shirt here. His channel is Cars Exposed he's a YouTuber over there in England, and he's a technician. Does a lot of work on cars and does a great job, definitely knows what he's doing. So if you get a chance, check out his channel. But in the meantime, I want to take you folks down here, see what's going on, and let's get it fixed. So you can see the oil, there's a puddle there, which is coming right up from here. It's all wet now, but I'm not sure if it's showing up on camera. But let me try to get the lighting just right. Let's see, get this on here. And I believe there's oil that's been dripping out back in here. You can see the orange Permatex right in there, which is a no-no. So it's all soaking wet right now. And let's go to the other side. It seems like when it runs, the oil's, yeah, it's all wet right now. You can see how shiny it is right in there. Let me zoom in. So it seems like when the oil gets pumped up to the top of the engine, you know, is when it starts dripping a lot. So it's soaking wet right there, and you can see where it's been running. An ugly mess. So I want to start by draining the oil. This is the drain bolt's right down here on the left side. This is a 17 millimeter, and oh my God, holy crap, is this tight? Somebody butchered this. Jesus, oh, there it goes. Wow. That was probably torqued to about 100 something. Just holy crap. So that was way over tight. I don't think whoever worked on this before really knew what they were doing just by using all that silicone goop. So let's drain the oil. I got a small pan down here, and here you can see that going right into there. We'll let that drain out, and then I'm going to start removing these. These are all 8 millimeter bolts. And we'll get those, 8 millimeter head hex, and we'll get those out and get this cover out of here and see what's going on. I'm gonna, in the meantime, I guess I should disconnect the battery because we're gonna this whole starter system up here, can't see me, up here is gonna be coming out. So to remove the battery, we have to take the seat off. So simply remove the side covers. There's two on, one on each side. Just a 10 millimeter bolt here, and these little covers come right off. Somebody's got the wrong bolt in here too. They just got a regular hex with a washer. Anyhow, here's our nut right here, and this is on both sides. I think that's a 14, and it is, yeah. So reach up in behind here. There's a hex or an Allen. You can usually just hold it. Go ahead and break this loose. Push this bolt through. If it doesn't want to go through, you can tap it, with a hammer or something, back of a screwdriver. Do the same on the other side, and then you'll be able to lift the seat. So there's just one bolt, just like you saw, to get this white cover off. And it's just a little guy, like a little 6 by 14 millimeter, or 6 millimeter by 14. What you do now is the same thing on this side. You got that bolt and bracket back here, and this one's a little tight, so I'll just tap it. Back of your ratchet screwdriver works good. Then all you need to do is lift up and pull back like this, because there is a clip here that goes right up into, where is it? This area, right in here. It slides up under here. So you wanna, don't just yank it up, pull it back then up. Now our battery's up here. Let me show you that.
So right here we've got the positive and negative, and I'm going to disconnect the negative terminal. Looks like an 8mm. Let me get a wrench. You always want to disconnect your, you know, whether it's a bike or a car or whatever you're working on, the negative side. Disable that. Don't do the positive first. And then of course when you're hooking it back up, always hook positive first, then negative last. That way you don't make any fireworks, or at least try to prevent them. So, because if your negative's hooked up and you're touching this positive and your wrench happens to come over and touch ground, just, you know, touch the chassis, then you're gonna have sparks. You got a good chance of getting burned. All right, I know a guy had a wristwatch on when he was doing that on his car, and burnt his wrist really bad. All right, so that is, oops, you couldn't see what I was doing. That's out. I'm just gonna put the bolt back in. Let me get the phone. All right, with the oil drain now, we can go ahead and put this bolt back in. Make sure that your crush washer's on there, and if it's in bad shape, that aluminum, it's a seal basically, like a gasket. If it's in bad shape, get a new one. But this one's okay to use, even though it was tightened down to ballistic, which we don't want to do. So got that snugged up. Of course, you don't want it to vibrate off, but that was tight, like insane tight. Okay, so that's good. So our oil's out. All right, so I'm going to start taking these bolts out now. If I didn't mention it, they're 8mm, and I'm going to kind of keep an idea of what came out of what hole as far as the length. So we want to definitely, this one has a big clump of Permatex on the end. Anyway, we'll kind of just leave that there, and I'm going to go like crisscross. We'll see what happens. So we don't know what we're going to find. The engine, the bike seems to run okay. Hopefully I'm not in the shot. Now when you pull this cover off, the reluctor's back here, which is, you know, it's a magnet in there with a bunch of copper coils. And wow, this one had a ton of Permatex. Can you guys see this? Look what I just pulled out of here. Of course I have black gloves on. It's going to be hard to see, but here, let me get in the light. Let me put the light up here. No, what's the best way? Maybe down here, can you see me? Yeah, right there. Look at this chunk of crap. Look at this. Look at this big piece of dookie. That's crazy. Okay. So, yeah. We've got issues. Or this bike has issues. We've got issues too, though. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. When you go ahead and pull these out, pull this cover off, it's going to be magnetized, so to speak. So you may have to give it a little bit of a yank just to get it freed up. Now I don't know if that starter is going to come with this or not. I've never taken one of these bikes apart. A lot of motorcycles are very similar, so if you've got a different brand or different make. Now I know there's a Kawasaki, what is it, KLX110. There's a 110 model. This is the 140. It's very similar to this one. This one has a bunch of goo too. Look at this. It is packed. That is crazy. Look at this. Can you see that? Put it right up here. Wow. Okay. Somebody went ballistic with that. So here's the back of the starter right here. If you look down there, it's actually bolted to the engine block and it's missing a bolt. So we'll take this other one out and then everything should go forward. So let's do it that way. I won't be able to film it, it's too tight. All right, I lied. This is how we do it on the Ozzstar Cars channel. 10-inch extension, you could probably use an 8 with a swivel on a 1/4-inch drive here, 1/4-inch drive ratchet with an 8mm socket. Get down in there, right on top of that sucker. Of course, I'm doing this one-handed, so it's a little bit tricky. But once I get on it, and I'm in loosey-goosey action, there we go. See if I can break this free with one hand. Hopefully it's not like ballistic tight here. There we go. Okay. Oop, I don't know if I was on it. So I just got that loose. All right, let me put you down here. Oof, that got shaky. Let me back that screw out, or bolt, whatever you want to call it. We'll have to get another when we order our parts, get another bolt here, since that should have 2 in it, that starter. And I'll just get one that's whatever length this is. I'll look it up. There's a lot of good online resources for parts, you know, like diagrams. And ooh, that's a long one for what it is. Knowing these guys, it's probably it's probably the wrong one. Wow, this thing's long. Okay, here it is here. That's kind of surprising. Before I yank that cover off, I'm going to give this a good cleaning right here. Just get any dirt and grit off. That's a real good idea. And then if you have shop air, you know, a compressor, then go ahead and blow that off with some air, which I'm going to do right now. Oops, great. That's good. There's a little bolt right here. Oop, hopefully my knee wasn't in the way. This one's a little longer. So with the bolts out, let's give this a little tap. I see it moving, so that's good. This probably isn't permatext. I'm just going to put a light pressure on these tabs here and push this out. There should be a gear back here with a, that's pretty much it. All right, here's our gear. So hopefully the light is on here for you. You can see that. And here's our gasket is on. So this one does have, and this just comes right off. This sits right inside here like this. There's no orientation. This is the Bendix up here for the starter. And yes, there are 2 more bolts right here. All right, so I got to use a 1/4 inch drive to get in here. 3/8 is too wide. So break these loose. Okay. And let me check the size on these when I pull them out. Make sure that they're the same as those other 6. And they are shorter. So look at that difference here. So definitely shorter, about 3/8 of an inch shorter. So make sure you don't put a longie back in there. You put one of the shorties in. And make sure this is the same length as that other short one. And you're doing this, you know, take pictures, take video, whatever you got to do. Yep, it's the same as the other one over here. So now let's give it a tap and see what we got. Now it may move. Yes, it is. Okay, I feel it. It's giving up. Now this is harnessed in here. So I just thought of that. Where is this harness going? All the way up here to try to find the end of the connector here for the harness, and it seems like it's buried up under the fuel tank. I don't know if it's worth taking all that apart. Why don't I just pull this out and see what's what. Let's wiggle this loose. There's a little bit more oil there, and we'll see what happens here. Oh, I can't disconnect. There's an oil right down here. There's the oil pressure sensor. So let's take this out. Remember, your battery's disconnected, so you don't have to worry about that. Shorting out, definitely. Okay. Oh man, there's Goo City here. All right, I'm just gonna let this hang off to the side and I'm gonna show you what's going on. You can see the disaster going on here, the amount of orange and black silicone. Here is where the harness comes through, and you will need to put sealant here. That's the only spot you're gonna seal up with RTV. You're gonna use a regular, real deal gasket. Kawasaki gaskets go in dry. Just put it in and torque it down to the proper specs. But here's something you don't wanna see, is so much of this RTV that it's inside the engine, and this can clog up your oil system, which is not good. You can get starvation that way. This flywheel, this is your flywheel here, inside the stator. You know, it spins inside here, makes the electric current. But anyway, this looks like kind of rusty. Looks like this sat out. We're gonna clean all this up real good. Inside here, what do I see in there? There's like, maybe that's silicone. What the? Let me scrape this out. I wouldn't be surprised. Now this is magnetized. So it's just really, oh yeah, there's, what the hell is that? Let me get it. Let's see what this is right here. Oh yeah, it's silicone. Oh boy, look at this crap. All in there. So we're gonna brake clean this and blow it out with compressed air. This is gonna be a lot of time cleaning this mess up. I'm going to, you wanna be careful now. You don't wanna scrape this too hard, and hopefully these numb nuts that were in here didn't do that. It looks kind of worn down right here. Because you can get leaks that way if you gouge it. So this crap they put on must have been the cheapest stuff, because it seems like it's coming off pretty easy. There's a couple of alignment pins. There's one here. I thought there was two on this side, maybe not. Let me see, there it is, there's the other guy. So it's been about a week or two and we're back. I've got some parts here. Here's the gasket and part number. I'll leave the link down below. I've got a whole bunch of other little gaskets and O-rings, but we'll get to that later. All Kawasaki stuff. Now here's a situation, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but on this left side case here, over here where the stator is, or stator, whatever you want to call it, whatever, however you pronounce it, there's a notch here where the wiring goes through. And if you can tell, this bushing here, or grommet I guess you call it, somebody had it all gooped up, is actually split. So that kind of sucks because it's a one-piece deal, and I looked up this part. You can only get it, it's kind of manufactured in with the entire new stator, and we're not replacing that. So I'm going to, you've got to use a little bit of silicone right here, RTV anyway, when this goes back in, even with the stock gasket. I'll use this Ultra. I like the Ultra silicones, seem to work pretty good. I got this as clean as I could. I've taken, you like this Chem tool, works good, but you know, brake clean, if you don't have that, brake clean will work fine with clean rags, and got it as dry and oil free as possible. And what I'll do now is I'm gonna just load this up. You probably won't be able to see me doing it. And I'm gonna fill this up here, and then, well, when I say in here, right in between, I'm not sure if that's showing up, but right in there, we'll put the silicone in, set it in there, put a little bit over the top, and then set our gasket into place. Now, what I wanna do is there's two dowels, you know, alignment dowels or pins. Make sure these go in first. And there's one that goes here. Just set that one in. Now, if you need to get these out while you're cleaning the surface, if I didn't mention it, I got this all real clean. You know, did a little bit of scraping, real lightly with a razor blade. I used like 600 grit sandpaper, not to sand the metal, just to get it cleaned up. Same thing on this side. Take my solvent, wipe this down really good. That's real important. And then you've got one other pin. Hopefully I can show it to you. It's right here. It's kind of dark. Let me get a light for you. So right here is that other one. And these just press in or push in. You can just do it with your finger. It should slide right in there pretty easy, okay? So let's set our gasket in place. You can only put it on one way. And like I said, this is gonna stay dry, so get it over the dowel pins and it should stay in place fairly well. Okay, like I say, if not, you can put a little bit of contact cement. All right, so let me put some RTV in here. I got to kind of load it up like I explained earlier. Sorry I can't get the camera in here. I might be able to show you a little bit after effect, but I don't have any camera helper today. So I don't want to get too crazy with this. You just need enough to do the job. Not like those, no, let's just say the guy behind me, or in front of me. The guy that was behind us. Now I'm gonna load this up here. So before we bolt the case on, we need to make sure our gears are in. This is for the flywheel. Now, I think I explained it earlier, but there's a rougher gear here, or more coarse than this side. This goes towards that starter gear, and there's a shim there. So make sure if you take this apart, and you can put a little bit of oil on here if you want. I'm not going to, because I'll crank it before we fire it up. But let me get this in place, and you're gonna have to mesh those gears, make sure they're engaged. Let's see, yeah, seems like it's all right there. Make sure these gears are engaged, and they seem to be. That's good. This gear here will have to go into this hole right there. So you're gonna kind of line it all up. All right, so with that siliconed up, I think we're ready. Gasket's in place, our gear's in place. Let's persuade this little guy in here. Gonna go easy. Let me set it there. Let me wipe my hands real quick. And then I'll just give this a little left to right, little persuasion. There it goes. Went in pretty easy. And I can see in here, I'll show you in a second, that the gear's lined up. Now what I did ahead of time is I cleaned my bolts. And then we'll torque them down. Just want to get it in place. I'm not going heavy. Now I know that this air ratchet can go 30 foot-pounds or pound-feet, which is not what we want. So don't get pound-feet or foot-pounds or confused with inch-pounds or Newton meters and whatever else it is. So let me get all these started. I just want to mention Smitty Smith and Knight. Check out his YouTube channel. Never mind, he's got a wicked hardcore accent. He knows what he's doing. Recently he posted a video on his channel on, I think he was working on a Yamaha or Kawasaki motorcycle cruiser. And what's funny is those bigger bikes, the engines are put together pretty much similar to these little engines. It's a 4-stroke, and he takes the side covers off, and he did some timing gear work, and I think timing chain stuff, and all kinds of fun stuff. So if you get a chance, check out his channel. Never mind his accent, it's just awesome, you know. Let me, I'm gonna go on the other side. I won't bore you, but you guys remember the starter bolts. There's actually, I ordered another one. Behind this starter, there's 2 bolts. And I'm gonna go bolt that in now. Now when I tighten these bolts up, I'm going in a crisscross action is what I'm doing here. So I'm gonna get them, I'm gonna work them a few pounds at a time. I'm not going like ballistic. So working my way around. So with all the bolts torqued down now, the 2 in here and then all the ones on the outside, it's time to put our starter gear, I guess you could call it here. It's not the Bendix. The Bendix for the starter, that's it, you know, actually spins right here, engages. I'm calling it this starter gear. I'm not sure what they call it, but Anyway, there's two sides of it. Now don't forget there's a washer, or not a washer, spacer right here. And make sure when you take yours out that you don't lose that. Now that engages back in here on the housing, which engages that other gear that I showed you that we popped in that spins the flywheel. So all this is connected. And what I'm gonna do on this one is just put a little oil. I don't think I showed it on the other gear, but I just put a little bit of oil on these shafts, I guess you could call it. Come on, why aren't you coming out now? Must be getting dry. My Tin Man oiling can here. There it comes. There it is. Okay, just a little bit. And we'll set that in there. Of course, I'm going to, if I didn't mention it now, before I speak any further, make sure you spin this slowly until it engages, and you'll know when it's in because it'll sit way back in there about a ½ inch. Let's put a little oil on this. Just need a little bit. Just so when it starts up, it doesn't, wipe that up real quick, so it doesn't run dry. That's all. And what I'm going to do anyway is before the bike starts, or before we fire it up, I'm going to disable the ignition so it'll crank. We're going to change the oil because we're doing the other side also. The other cover is leaking, so we'll be doing an oil change. The filter's over there, and just get that oil circulating throughout the engine. So that's that. Now I've got this already prepped and cleaned. The surface here, the mating surface, everything's been cleaned. And on our cover that we took off, this one here, everything's clean. I'm just wiping it down to make sure. Got a brand new gasket for this one. And this can only go on one way. There's like two little dips down here that correspond with these ears, we'll call them. See this right here? This and this, they're downwards and this one's up. And here's our new gasket. It's 11061. What is that? A 03, and it looks like 88. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's 0300 right there. Oops, blocking you out. There we go. Anyway, this is our new gasket. It only goes in one way as well, so you can't mess that up. You just got to line things up. And what I'll do is I like to start this one. I'm going to start right here on this piece because it kind of has a flange on it, and it'll hold it in place for us. And then just take the upper bolt. This one has 3 bolts. Just put this one through, and it's going to kind of hold everything there for us while we get it in position. So there we go. And just get those started, those two. 2 for 1 right there. And this guy is kind of a tight fit, so it could use a little bit of persuasion. Just make sure that gear is back there. And I've got just a rubber mallet here, and I'm going to give this a little tap just to get it started. I'm not beating on it hard, on the outer edge, not in the center, on the outer edge. There you go. Now it's nice and tight, and we can just wind these guys in and then torque them down. Crisscrosser, don't have to get crazy. If you wanted to right now, you could hook up the battery, and of course you'd have to put oil in. If you weren't working on the other side, you'd fill your oil up right now. I suggest a new filter. Right over here is our oil pressure sensor wire sending unit right here. So let's put that guy on while we're thinking about it. And that goes on before the little chain guard. Get that. So we got to put our chain guard back in over here. But I'm going to do that after I test for leaks. So with that all buttoned up, let's go on this side here. I'm a man of my word, so I'm going to do it right. And I want to show you guys that I got that's the back of the starter. That I ordered another bolt. I think it was it was a 6 by M6 by 25 pitch, or length I should say, not pitch. Anyway, get these snugged up. I'm way down in there. So they probably, you know, the other hack that worked on this, he probably, I called him a hack too. Yeah, we're not hacking here. What was I going to say? He probably couldn't get the bolt down in there or have the tools to do it, from judging from the rest of his work, but that's them and not us. So there's our bolts in there now. So that's supported. All right, so if you know, after you got everything bolted in, the only thing left would be the chain guard. And I bought the guide. The guy had left the, you know, the guide off, the chain guide. So this has 2 bolts, and I bought the correct bolts that go in there. You'd put that on there. I'm leaving it off because I want to inspect this grommet for any oil leaks after startup. The next step would be go ahead and hook your battery back up. You know, your seat's off here. This is still loose. You hook your battery up, put your seat back on with the 2 bolts, get your side cover, bolt that on. You would add oil, and I suggest you change the filter. I use the Kawasaki stuff here. I always use motorcycle oil no matter, you know, what motorcycle I'm working on, because you need those additives for the clutch packs. In this case, it's a wet clutch. Anyway, it takes like 1.1 quarts. I'll add 10W40 in there, new filter, and then you would fire it up, check for leaks, and you'd be good to go. In our case, we have that oil leak on the other cover, so I'm going to move all this stuff around to the other side now, or maybe I'll just flip the bike around. That would be easier, right? And we'll go ahead and get that taken care of.